folks, and welcome to PLKitty. I am doing the very first BlizzCon Diaries. So I have just spent 9 hours watching the virtual ticket, and that's just watching the main stage. We fortunately get a chance with the virtual ticket to go back and watch any of the stuff that was happening at the same time, so we can get caught up on some of that as well. So we're actually hoping to be able to watch some of the games tomorrow, and then of course on Sunday we'll be able to catch up on all of the things that we wanted to watch that we didn't get to see. And I am at this point very exhausted, very excited, and very overwhelmed. So the very last thing that I watched, I guess I'll touch on first, was the costume contest and talent show, which was phenomenal. I feel like this year there was even more epicness in the cosplay than we've seen in previous years. I feel like people just like stepped up their game. I am so glad that I wasn't one of the ones that had to decide who was even in the top 10, let alone in the top 4. Like, it was just amazing. The Malfurion was like phenomenal. Like, the detail on those like wooden horns and the armor and those feathers, like that was amazing. And they were just so good. Baby Abathur wasn't one of the ones that was up there in either the honorable mention or the winners, but that was a nice highlight for me as well. That was pretty hilarious. Like everything was just so amazing. I feel like the armor sets are just like the detail, the fine detail and molding, and like it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. A lot of those costumes look like they could have just walked off the Warcraft set. Like, just phenomenal. And speaking of which, of course, we had the panel on the Worldcraft movie. The Warcraft movie was, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't actually get to see any footage on the virtual ticket. If you were actually at the convention, then they did have a setup where you could actually go and see a few snippets in a screening room, which, you know, I'm disappointed we didn't get to see. So that's unfortunate, but certainly they did talk about the film, and I'm very excited about it. I don't feel like I got as excited this year as I had last year, because it was so like, we've been hearing that they're going to make a movie for so long, and last year it was finally like tangible, it's going to happen. And I guess maybe not seeing the footage, I didn't get, quite as excited. Plus, there was so many exciting things being announced that, I'm still super excited and want to see it, but just not to the level of the excitement that I had around other things that were announced. So, of course, they had the director, Duncan Jones, was there, as well as Bill Westenhofer, the special effects supervisor, and they were talking about the film, and they had a great addition. Rob Kaczynski showed up, and his Ogrim walk was amazing. It certainly did put me in the mood. Like, he definitely had a great strut. That, makes me think that, like, we're going to have some pretty great performances there, I think. So I'm pretty excited about that. It sounds like they really made a lot of they really are making a really strong effort to make everything very very strongly performed and very connected. And Chris Metzen was certainly talking about how when he watched the footage, that he really felt something for the orcs, that, you know, he was watching that and there was so much emotion in the shot and in the eyes, and that it really made him feel for them. And like, that's what they've been talking about this entire time, is being able to tell the story from both sides and to have people connect to both sides. And so I think it's going to be really great. They talked about all of the different characters and cast. So we've got Lothar, which will be Travis Fimmel, who's on Vikings, and Duratan, who will be Toby Kebbell, who was in Planet of the Apes, Ben Foster as Medivh, and then Rob Kaczynski, who was there as Orgrim, Dominic Cooper as King Lane, Clancy Brown as Blackhand, Ben Schnetzer as Khadgar, and Paula Payton as Garona. So this is, as I think we all who have been watching this know, that this is going to be released March 2016. And they're just really trying to, you know, have this breathing, living person in the orc. And I think they're really making some great strides with that. They talked about how a lot of the time when you do motion capture, you do it in a studio and it's in kind of a controlled setting, and they wanted to do things differently for this. So they actually did the motion capture on set with the other actors. So people were actually interacting together. And they wanted to create something that had a bit more of an organic quality to it. So that's pretty cool. And they talked about the sets and locations and how cool it was to be able to stand in Stormwind. And, you know, there is something really cool about that. As somebody who's, you know, been playing World of Warcraft since beta, like, I could see that, like, if they turned all of these sets into like a theme park or, you know, type of thing, that like there'd be people that would pay money to go see that. That'd be so cool. So that was pretty exciting. Of course, they talked about, Blizzard announced that there's going to be a new charity pet for World of Warcraft, which will, the proceeds will go to Ebola relief through Red Cross. So that's pretty awesome. That will be coming soon. And of course, they also touched on this idea of, you know, the emphasis on positive energy that we feel at BlizzCon. We all feel, you know, connected, and we all kind of come together for this common reason, and how they hope that this positivity will continue after the convention, especially in light of all of the negativity that's been spreading around gaming. So that was pretty cool for them to kind of touch on that and talk about that. So World of Warcraft itself, of course, we all know that they've been doing a lot of pruning, there wasn't really a whole lot, I think, that was, big revelations. Of course, because the expansion is coming out so soon, there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. We've already seen a lot of changes that have already happened in the last patch. So there wasn't a whole lot to talk about there, but they were, something that I found really interesting was they were talking about, this whole pruning evolution, and, how, they were looking at the abilities and how they were going to prune them down. And when you look at it, in 2004, the core abilities for Resto Druid were 21, plus 39 additional. So 39 abilities that, like, you wouldn't necessarily use a lot. So, stuff for your, cat form or for bear form and that type of thing. And then with patch 1.12, we saw 46 buttons. And then in BC, 51. Wrath of the Lich King went up to 57. In Cataclysm, they talked about how they were going to try to streamline things. They didn't do so good. They still had 57. And in Myths, 57. So they had, pared down, of course, the talents, but then new abilities came in, and so it still was up there. And so the efforts are doing a lot better with Warlords of Draenor going down to 41 or 37 if you're picking all of the passive talents. And in the Q&A, there was a lot of talk about how, for some people, they really want it to be really complex and really challenging and unforgiving gameplay. And, there's a lot of this talk about, making it more fun and simplifying things. And so they talked about how, especially with the talent system, like you can kind of pick how you want to play. So you can actually take passive talents if you want to kind of just, have things, happening as you go, or you can actually have like proc talents, that type of thing. Or you can actually take talents that have, action buttons, and so that's something else that you have to manage, and in doing so, sometimes it can be unforgiving if you don't manage those properly. So they thought that actually helped to create kind of different types of gameplay, which was pretty cool. And then they also spent a lot of time talking about healing and how they really wanted to change healing. So there's this kind of they talked about like the whiplash healing effect, where people would go down to next to nothing, like they're gonna die, and then they're up to full health, and then back again and back again. So they wanted to kind of negate that. So by doing that after the squish, they actually doubled the health. So hopefully that gives a little bit more time to make decisions and to decide how you're going to heal, what you're going to use. And then the smart heals they also found were like, they would, it's automatic, right? So they're just going to look for who's the lowest health and heal them. They're making them less smart. So now they're actually just going to, like, if they're just going to heal injured parties. So you might have somebody who's down by 1 health and they'll actually get healed, when you may actually want somebody who is lower health to get healed. So you have to kind of think about what's the best heal for the instance. And spirit is only going to be on certain items, because they found that mana was such an issue when you're kind of starting out in a noob, and then once you get like all of the top level gear, then it's like everything is just a breeze. Like you just always have mana. You can cast whatever you want. It's no problem. So they want to kind of normalize that a little bit more. This all means slower pace, more tactical and less reactive, more decision making, and as I said, mana regen will feel more balanced. Another thing that they talked about changing is the items. Of course, they talked a lot about the items and how that's going to work. So right now, when you are doing a raid, you get, of course, a token, which you can turn in for your gear. So they had a great little hilarious video where the person, like in the middle of the raid, they convinced them to, like, the raid leader to let them go and get their gear and whatever, and 3 hours later they're done doing everything they need to do to that gear and back to the raid, and there's nobody there. So they want to make this a little bit more seamless, so tokens will directly convert into items. So that's pretty awesome. And they are also removing hit and expertise and reforging. So you won't need to reforge those items. They're hoping there's like no need for the min-maxing of all items, that, those upgrades should be upgrades. No, and speaking of which, so there'll be no upgrading of those items. Gems and focus enchants will only be on certain items. So you won't be having to do that on all items as well. And even if you don't get to put those gems and enchants on, then those items should still be better than the gear that you had before. So they also talked about customization being important, of course, but they're just wanting it to be less work. You shouldn't have to have all of those spreadsheets to figure out what gems and what enchants and what reforging all works together to make the best combination. So there's still some work involved, but not to the degree of what they had before. All gem slots are going to be prismatic, so you can put whatever you need to put in there as your secondary stats to increase your armor. Customization secondary stats through existing professions: cooking, jewel crafting, and enchanting. So that's how they're going to handle that. They're also looking for there to be more useful loot. So by dual stats, they talked about dual stats in main armor slots. So meaning if you have leather that drops, then it should actually be good for any kind of leather wearer. If you have plate that drops, should be good for your paladin or your death knight. So they're wanting that to be a little bit better handled as far as being able to be useful to raid members. So separate role items for armor type, and instead of the separate role items for armor type. Dodge and parry are now bonus armor. And then the variety, and then they talked about the variety of sources for loot. So of course, we already know about, quests and dungeons. Of course, the garrisons are coming in, so you'll be able to get some loot through that as well. And of course, rares and that type of thing. Quest items and drops can be randomly upgraded. So the drops that you get in a raid have certain stats on them, and those are not like static stats. So you might actually have your raid gear, and then something might drop, and it might actually be better than what you already have. So it keeps that kind of I guess excitement alive, and finding out what drops and seeing if it's helpful to you. And then in even quests, items can be upgraded. So you might actually get blue or even purple as a quest item, just by the random chance. So it again creates this a little bit more excitement and engagement with the items that are dropping. So stats can increase, and you could also get Warforged items for the dungeon raids. And then there's 2 new secondary stats: versatility and multi-strike. So all of that was very interesting. So that was the stuff that from Warcraft and Hearthstone. Pretty big announcement. They have announced that in December the Hearthstone Android will be released, so we'll be able to play on Android tablets, so that's amazing. And the big announcement for them was, of course, Goblins versus Gnomes. So that will be released in December as well. And unlike Naxxramas, this will actually have 120 cards released, and they'll be able to be earned in different ways, so much like packs. So that's going to be super exciting. A lot of mech stuff, So that's going to be pretty cool. That was actually just the information that came through on the opening ceremonies reveals. So I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more information about that, as well as StarCraft. Again, the information that I got from that was just from the opening ceremonies. So big announcement, the Legacy of the Void, which will actually be a standalone game if you don't already have the game, or it can play as an expansion if you do have the game. So that's pretty interesting, and it will focus on the story of the Protoss, which I personally think are pretty cool. So I think that I am going to check that out. I do really enjoy watching StarCraft. I find it very intimidating, so I haven't personally played. But it is actually something that I am hopefully looking to do. But at the same time, my hours are limited, and there are so many awesome games by Blizzard alone, let alone anybody else. So I need more hours in the day, I guess. What else? Heroes of the Storm, lots of announcements for that. So for the Team Brawler, you have new heroes. So Thrall has been upgraded in there, and we've got Jaina Proudmoore, who actually was pretty funny because they were showing some footage of her, and the power went out. And so there was some speculation that she was so awesome that she, froze the whole system. So she is pretty awesome, and I look forward to checking that out. Sylvanas, of course, is a really popular character, and she's got some sick stuns and mind control abilities, which should be pretty interesting. Another really big crowd favorite was the Lost Vikings. So you can actually move them as a group or separately. So imagine this, a single Dragonite play. Pretty cool. Pretty difficult, but pretty cool. They have some new battlegrounds coming out. The Sky Temple. So you'll be able to capture temples, fight off guards, who will try to prevent you from keeping the temple. And if you do have the temple, you'll get a death ray, which is pretty awesome. Excuse me. Then there's Tomb of the Spider Queen, which they really glossed over because of the disruption in the feed. They had to kind of run through everything quickly at the end. But it is an underworld theme with you collecting gems, so that should be pretty interesting. Big thing that they announced, of course, being January 13th for the closed beta, and you know how much Blizzard likes to announce dates, so you know that they are really committed to sticking to that date. There will be new draft modes. Teams will alternate picking heroes, and no duplicates will be able to happen. Goodness. The battleground selection will be on there too. So the way that it'll work is one team picks, so there'll be like a coin toss. First team picks one hero, second team picks two, and so on and so forth. So it'll happen that way. There will be a new ranked play. They really liked how Hearthstone worked, and so they are looking to start at 50 and go to 1. With, of course, winning one, you gain a point, losing one, you lose a point kind of deal. And there will be seasons, but much like Hearthstone, depending on your rank, you will actually retain some of your points from the previous season. Match quality is also very important to them, and skill rating will persist through matches, so that quality quality matches can maintain throughout the season, so that when you're starting off a new season, you're being matched with just as competitive people as you would be at the end of the season when everybody would have their rankings. So they also want to keep it very competitive, so that you have to maintain at least a level 30 to enter a team league, and level 40 for a player league or hero league, and then a team league is you have to maintain a rank of 40. And you will be able to have 9 players to a team and up to 3 teams. Something that's really interested and which started to be pretty debated was the how they're going to handle leavers, because of course this is really about team play, and so people who leave a match are really influential to what happens with that match. So leavers will get flagged as leavers, and then Blizzard will decide that those players enjoy that style of play, and they will only be matched up with other leavers until they have earned the right to come back to playing with the general population. They do estimate that there will be a grace period that might be based on the number of games that you have played and not dropped out of versus the number of games that you had to leave. So, because they understand that, sometimes internet issues, emergencies, whatever. So there will be some kind of grace period there. So a big announcement, of course, for myself, which was super exciting, was to find that Heroes of the Storm was actually in my Battle.net launcher today. So I have already started the download. So I am hoping to actually jump in there this week and start to check that out. So you can expect to see that on stream this coming week. So I'm pretty excited about that. So that was that stuff. And of course, you'll notice in the background here, I've got something called Overwatch up. What the heck is Overwatch? So of course, anybody who's been following the MMO Champion or other sites like that, you will notice that Overwatch was a trademark that they had registered, but there was a lot of speculation on what that was, and there was also this strange big gap in the middle of the schedule for BlizzCon that we didn't know what was happening, and lo and behold, they announce Overwatch, so a brand new franchise for the first time in 17 years. Super exciting, really different. So they are actually looking at a beta in 2015, and this is going to be a first-person shooter, so a team-based multiplayer game. So it looks really cool. The art style is different from their other franchises, but still has that trademark Blizzard look to it. So polished, looks amazing. I can't wait to check this out. I'm sorry, I've been screaming at the TV all day, super excited, super tired, and now my throat is super scratchy. I'm finding it difficult to talk. But I am going to try to manage to get through this. So, yeah, Overwatch looks amazing. I noticed that the logo for me looks fairly similar to other logos for other games, but like all things Blizzard, it looks a little bit cheeky. We've got a little bit of the kind of high five action going on. At least that's how I interpret it. It's pretty cute. So the game is based actually on Earth. So they haven't. It's not another, Azeroth or Sanctuary or anything like that. Thank you. My dear husband is bringing me some more water because he can tell from upstairs that I am struggling. So much awesome. So the game is based on Earth, and it is a highly fictionized future Earth, like 60 years-ish in the future. And there was a Omnic Robots crazy Omni Crisis situation about 30 years ago, or 30 years from the present of the game, I guess. And all of the nations pulled their resources together to build the Overwatch strike team. And then about 5 years from the present game time, Overwatch fell apart. So there's no details out there about how they fell apart, what happened, some inner strife within the organization. Shield. Yeah, so anyways, it seems pretty cool. Chris Metzen, of course, asked, can they rebuild? And to which my husband responded, Captain Dylan Hunt says they can. I think it's going to be pretty cool. They have such a distinct art style and humor that I think it sets them apart from other first-person shooters. Like, there's nothing like this. So Jeffrey Kaplan is the game director and VP of Overwatch, who was there to tell us about all of the details of this brand new game. And they are looking at a non-Twitch options, so less lethal kind of first-person shooter, which is really interesting because I really enjoy watching first-person shooter matches on Twitch here, and it does intimidate me, but I really want to get in there and try it. And so I really think that this is definitely something that I want to try. I've already signed up on the Overwatch website to join the beta, so I am hoping to check that out when it comes out in 2015. So they talked about how they have 12 characters to start for now, which are actually on the showroom floor to try out at BlizzCon, and they are also up on the website, which I have up in the background here as well. So they have a growing pantheon of characters as well that will happen, but for now they have the 12, and all of their backgrounds are up there and all of that, so I encourage you to go and check it out. It is very cool. I will put if you're watching this on YouTube, I am going to have all of the links in the description below. But on to the gameplay. So you have your kind of loose constructs of characters, or roles rather. So you have your offense characters, who are who do your scouting, your harassing, your pressing the objective, high damage, and this is all like, there's no like holy trinity. It's kind of more of a loose guide. It's not like doing a dungeon in, like, say, World of Warcraft, where you have to have your healer, your tank, and like 3 DPS. Like, it's not like that. It's just gives you some different dynamics. And then you have your defensives, which do your guarding of locations. They can create choke points, establish a front, Then, of course, your tanks, who are the protectors, have high survivability. They run disruption and they lead the charge. And then you actually have support, which is really interesting. So they actually have a heal, a buff, and utility. So I was really intrigued by the utility. Some really cool stuff happening there. You've got some maps and game modes. So they have worldwide locations with simple objectives, lots of mobility, team-focused encounters. They only have a few maps and modes for right now. But they think that that's still, they're okay with that because of the different dynamics of the play, that they think that there's a lot still to be offered there as is, and that they've been playing, of course, a lot at Blizzard, and everybody's super excited for this release and really enjoy the game. So, one of the characters that they highlighted who is actually in the trailer video is Tracer. So, call sign Tracer. Her name is Lena Oxton, and she has some pretty cool abilities. So, she's got Blink, which is her most iconic, I guess, ability, and it is based on all of her abilities are based on an energy resource, and it has 3 ticks that you'll have to monitor. She's really good for short range, decent at medium, not so great at long range. She's got pulse pistols, and the recall ability, which is pretty cool. She gets to go back to where she was 3 seconds ago, which includes location as well as health. So that could be pretty integral to how you play the character. And her ultimate ability, as they all have an ultimate ability, is a pulse bomb, which is a thrown sticky bomb, and it is pretty gnarly. Then you also have some different types of play as well. So aside from just being able to like soak damage and do damage, you'll also have like Mercy, who does healing. Watching her gameplay was pretty cool, because they did show some gameplay where she has like a healing beam, and then she's able to like port right or like jump right to the character that she's healing, which is pretty cool. And she looks awesome. Then you've got Torbjorn, who is a builder, so he gets to like build turrets and stuff, which can be pretty important in defending, and can be a really valuable player, which is a little bit a different style of play for sure. They decided to go with a 6v6 team dynamic, because they felt that with a larger team, you felt like you had less impact. But if you go smaller, then it can be really difficult if you have somebody on your team who maybe isn't having a great day or a little bit less versed in playing. So they felt like 6 was that nice balance. To which, of course, my husband also said, there are 6 achievement hunters. Interesting. So I would love to see the achievement hunters play this. I think that that would be pretty awesome. You also have, they also talked about how for them it's really about building a game about heroes, not classes. I really see, and they also talked about how the story's not going to actually happen within the gameplay itself. It is going to play out elsewhere, and they've been really kind of evasive about what that looks like, but I get the sense that they already have an idea, and I can definitely see a cartoon happening out of this. And even some of the things that they said, talking about the animation in the videos that they already released, that they really thought that that was a direction that they wanted to go. So I can definitely see there being some kind of cartoon happening, whether that's actually just an online animation that happens, or whether that ends up being carried elsewhere. I don't know, but I definitely see something like that happening. So what a huge day, like amazing. I don't even know what else to say at this point. Like, it is just, I am so tired. I'm so excited. Of course, they released some new stuff, some new merch for the BlizzCon merch. Of course, relating to Overwatch. So you can buy some really cool Overwatch stuff. I had been waiting to buy some merch until after they did the announcement, because I wanted to, see what new additions they made. And they made some really awesome ones. I really kind of wanted to get the Deathwing pop. Was pretty cool, but ultimately I can't get everything. There's so much I want, and there is still a lot on my wish list that, who knows, maybe I'll get some stuff for Christmas. But I did order a few things, and of course I will do an unboxing of that when it arrives. But I think that is it for now. I am just overjoyed at everything that they announced. I remember this time last year when we were watching the virtual ticket, they had announced Heroes of the Storm, to which I was like, oh my god, that is so amazing. It looks so cool. It brings in all the characters from all of the different Blizzard franchises, and it looks super fun. And I watched, of course, Twitch streams and all of that, and there was just so much excitement actually last year during BlizzCon when they announced it. And the same thing with Hearthstone. Like, they just keep on putting out more polished, amazing games. And I feel like if I only played Blizzard games for the rest of my life, I would be happy. Of course, I enjoy playing other games, but Blizzard just makes such a supreme product that I can't believe that they continue to put out these hits. And so this Overwatch announcement was just another thing, just another tick on the box. Like, I said to my husband, of course, when I've been thinking about trying a first-person shooter, Blizzard would come out with one that will obviously end up being the first one that I ever try. Like, it is just so amazing. I love the art style. It is supremely Blizzard. It has its cheeky moments, yet it's still its own game, which is amazing, and I look forward to seeing how that evolves. And I'm really excited to start checking out Heroes of the Storm this week. So I hope that you join me as this noob starts to play through some of that as well. So I'm not even sure when I'm going to be able to play some more Evil Within, because there's so much to do. I need to get my characters ready for the expansion, which is being released in just a few days. Like, so much Blizzard awesome. And I hope that you join me again tomorrow as I go through some more excitement from the BlizzCon virtual ticket in the PLKitty BlizzCon Diaries. So thanks so much for watching. I am going to bed so that I can rest up and do it all over again tomorrow. And hopefully, actually, by then, Heroes of the Storm will be finished downloading. I think I was at about 50%. So I am definitely looking forward to checking that out. And because, of course, we had the virtual ticket, we'll have the special mount for that as well. So we'll definitely have to check that out. So again, thanks so much for watching. If you have any comments, then certainly leave those below. I'd certainly love to, talk some more about BlizzCon awesomeness. Have a great night, folks.